The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
6 minutes after 12, we're open line on Mannin Line today, but big day is regarding the weather. DOI's declared a major incident due to the number of trees down and the impact of this across arterial and access routes for emergency services. The Manx government is asking you to stay at home, not to travel unless absolutely necessary while this is resolved. Declaring a major incident means that demand on services is over and above what can be comfortably managed, and additional resources are now being called in to assist where it's safe to do so, redirected from other service areas or external contractors. Response teams continue to work to keep the arterial routes clear, but some teams have been withdrawn due to the risk of falling trees in certain areas. Situations being constantly reviewed, and we'll tell you the updates as we get them. All schools are closed today. People are saying, the government's saying stay at home. Of course, the steam packet's been cancelled today. Ronaldsway's closed till about 4 o'clock. Bus Mannin isn't operating until after 2 o'clock today. The mountain road's closed till 5 o'clock. East Foxdale Road, Éowyn, there's a tree on the power lines there. Michael Street, Peel is closed due to bricks falling from a building. Lazaire Road's closed because of a fallen tree, and Glen Helen Road is closed because of a fallen tree. There are dozens and dozens of trees down today. So that's the government's... it is a Friday, by the way. You can stay at home if you want. And if you want to get on the lines, by all means, text 166 177. WhatsApp, same number. Email studio@manxradio.com. Call 66 13 68. And Robert's first with us today. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you doing? I've been reading a book of Tony Benn, the old socialist from the UK.
Oh, yes.
I was just wondering if we could take stock of where socialism is up to in general, because it seems to have taken a back step with all of this, high flick from Elon Musk and all the rest of it. So I don't know where we're up to. Where are we up to with socialism, Andy?
I don't know. Do you think socialism was kind of discredited, really, by when Ronald Reagan was president and Margaret Thatcher in the UK. Socialism kind of finished. I mean, the Berlin Wall came down, the Soviet Union disappeared and became other things as well. So I don't know about socialism. I don't know. Is there much socialism today, do you think?
Well, I mean, the Labour Party and the unions claim to be slightly socialist, don't they?
Well, I think it'll be. I mean, not the way here to talk about UK politics, but I mean, I can't ever remember any Labour politician saying the word socialist. I mean, Tony Blair got rid of that years ago.
Okay, maybe I'm on the wrong end. All right, no worries. I just started to have stock of it. It was just a bit kind of like ADHD and thinking a bit too much and all the rest of it.
Actually,
I was just wondering where we're up to with
did it say? I don't know whether it said, but I'm sure Tony Benn, or as he once was, Anthony Wedgwood Benn, as he was in the high reaches of the aristocracy, Viscount Stansgate as he was. His grandfather, wasn't it? Did his grandfather serve on the Ben McCree at Dunkirk? I'm sure there was a connection with Anthony Wedgwood Benn.
Something like that. Yeah, I haven't read the full book yet, but I've got 3 books here that I'm just working my way through.
My word!
But he was a fascinating guy. Lovely man.
That's the weekend. That's the weekend's reading sorted, Robert.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You too. Good to hear from you today. And David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. I just want a quick update about the homelessness thing, and I want to then flip to the outstanding one about the NSC and the trophies. But can I ask? I've asked the question anyway with government, but today they're all off. Is why didn't the social services, when they had the consultation going out, send it to local authorities? Who do you think would have the answers to how many people are on your list, how many people are asking for accommodation, and how many people are knocking on the doors of local authorities or central government itself?
And not only that, but remember, local commissioners and councillors talk to an awful lot of people, and they will know about people that are homeless.
Yes, so it brings me to the question too now, regarding some Hill Views has been occupied, is how much are they paying in rent? Are they paying the same rent as the local authorities, or are they more because it's a private institution that's running it? We don't know what the terms and conditions are that they were granted the licence to run it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, what's happening with Retna Bay? Why can't that be used as a temporary bail hostel?
Well, they don't seem to be moving with any sort of speed. I mean, going back to Summerhill Views, we don't know that, as you say, we don't know the terms and conditions. It may be that it's similar to the old Salisbury Street bus station one there, that which I think is operated by a company who then get... The government has a certain number of spaces within there, and they can sell the rest. So I'm presuming that's how they make their profit. So the government retains the freehold, but a company goes in and operates it and charges the government an amount and has a certain number of rooms that they can sell themselves.
Yeah, but when you look at that one in Salisbury Street, I'm sure there was some detail on that one. So what's the difference between the one in Summerhill Views? Why is they so... they're always going to say confidential. It's a confidential contract between them. It's like the housing building organisation. That's what I'm saying that needs to be looked at. But I wanted to give you an update on the trophies.
Yeah.
All the trophies have been cleaned and back, and I was told, but they wouldn't tell me directly, that thousands of pounds worth of trophies there, which are nearly all to do with cycling. So... Which is our biggest cycler in the Isle of Man?
Yes, you bet.
So, can I just ask people, next time when we're back to go to Summerland, I was there the other night, last night, looked at the trophy cabinet. It's still in the same position in the basement by the bowls hall, next to the ladies' toilet, in a little cul-de-sac where they go into the ladies' toilet.
It's hardly what you call a prime position, is it?
Well, I looked at it last night. I was talking to a number of people in the club, our club, in the bowling club indoor there, and I said to them, where would you put it? And they said, and I want people to have a look when they're going in now and again and give some views maybe next week, is right where the reception area is. If you look to the right, and I'd forgot about it, there's a little trophy cabinet built into the wall, which has got a few trophies on it. One to do with the DOI and the NSC. I don't know that's a weird one. Yeah. But the other one is the torch that came here for I think it was the Millennium, wasn't it? A torch that was lit.
Right, yes.
They carried them around there. And why can't the swimming stuff be pushed over it into the corner a bit more? And the cabinet is there. And when you come through the door, when somebody says to you, in the Isle of Man, what did all these cyclists do from years ago? And maybe we should get something from Cavendish and stick it in there as well.
Well, and also it's something, I mean, this isn't a brush that doesn't sweep. Cycling on the Isle of Man for years, for decades, has been really, really big, and we should be waving the flag for it.
Yeah, you want to see I don't know. Some of the politicians, I listened to them last week, and I thought to myself, I don't know. Some of them need to be replaced. All right?
Okay, just one thing. Regarding, you're talking about the fact that they talk about commercial confidentialities and regarding places like Summerhill Views. And I'm not using that as an example. This is in general. The last time we had an election, everybody talked about transparency. And the fact is, nothing's going to stay confidential on the Isle of Man for long, because if people don't hear the truth, they'll make it up. We know that. The skeet comes in. So wouldn't it be better if the government said this is what's going to happen with care homes in the future, bearing in mind we're going to need one every year to deal with the number of people going into care? It would just be nice if we knew where we stood, and then everybody could look at the figures and make the judgment accordingly, rather than not knowing and people saying it's confidential. Well, whose money is it, for a start?
It's ours. It's like the housing board, isn't it? They're using thousands and thousands of pounds worth of government money from, I hate to say it, HSBC. Nothing wrong with that. They're loaning the money there. But what about the local authorities who are struggling I'd love to talk to you. I will talk to you privately sometime, because I'm really worried that Treasury itself is having a restriction on the activities what a local authority can do, because we loan money.
Okay, all right. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
I was going to say one thing about the Summer Hill at the bottom there, where the stables all got the scaffolding on. Milky Quail's got a new investment next door to it. When is that scaffolding going to come down and Milky Quail can have a business to run?
Oh, and how are your tubes, by the way?
My tubes?
Your evacuation tubes. Didn't they get smashed?
Oh, I need to talk to you another day. My evacuating tubes, my green credentials got out the pan.
Oh dear.
Because of it. And just to let you know, now the garage roof has gone too. I'm just looking at the window, having a look. But a few things are still left in the garden. The bird feed is still up. Anyway, I'm looking forward to summer. But I'll tell you about me evacuation tubes sometime, because they were great. They used to produce me hot water, save me 2 fills of oil a year, and now I've got an insurance claim.
All right. Thanks for calling. Cheers.
See ya, bye.
All right, 18 minutes past 12 now. This public health survey that's been carrying out now, it's for some research on homelessness on the Isle of Man, and David's been talking about homelessness for the past couple of months now. They want to hear from you as a member of the public what your perceptions of homelessness are on the Isle of Man. When somebody says the word homeless, what do you think? Do you think of a tramp on the street? Do you think of somebody, a young person, an old person? What do you think of? What does homelessness mean to you? They'd like information from you, and it's a website, so I apologise for that, but it closes on Monday. The results of the survey are going to be compiled into a report to determine what's happening next, but of course, if you don't have your sixpenneth, if you don't put your opinion, then by all means, you can't say anything. Anyway, go to gov.im and go to /homelessness survey. Or if you just put Isle of Man Government Homelessness Survey into a web search, it'll come up. Take the survey, take you about 15 minutes to do, and I just wonder, well, if you don't say anything, then the government will do what the government will do. But at least you can have your say and you'll find out more about it. And remember, if you're worried about being homeless or homelessness in general, 650000 any time of day to get help or support if you have nowhere to stay tonight or you need emergency accommodation. Howard's on now. Hello, Howard.
Hello, Andy. It's a bit fresh, but just a normal day on the Isle of Man, what we say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of wind, isn't it? It's a bit of breeze.
Yeah, used to something that was always said here, when the wind gets down to 70 mile an hour, we go sunbathing. But, that was always windy on the island. But what I was ringing for is listening to David there talking about various nursing homes, residential homes, etc. It's gone very quiet on the one on the Woodburn Road where they knocked down the old civil defence place and that fine Victorian house. And it's now just a barren area. And that was all talk and hype and Lord knows what, that they were going to put a new home there for, elderly persons, and they were going to spend a fortune on it and do this, that and the other, and there's nothing happening. There's just a barren waste. Now, you're not hearing anything of it. Have the people disappeared?
How long ago, I'm trying to recall, how long ago did that come down?
It'll be in the second year now, at least.
Right.
At least maybe 2, could even be or 3 would take it into the end of COVID, but it's definitely 2 anyway. And that was a fine big building. So, what is happening to that? Is it just going to stay a brownfield site with little or no rates on it?
I would love to know, and I know a couple of other people who would love to know, what happened to the fixtures and fittings inside that, because the staircase was gorgeous.
Well, there's a lot of buildings like that. all suffered the same fate. Even down in, it's a long since gone, but Kermode and Bignell's used to be where the Strand shop, and there used to be a beautiful spiral staircase, went right up through the building. That disappeared. And they say these places, they come in, and there's a lot of valuable items and old fireplaces and everything that's in these buildings. But that aside, this Victorian building, there's no way we'll get it back now. But what is going to go in its place? You're not hearing a word from anybody. The government, the people who proposed the building, or otherwise. Maybe
I'm trying to remember. As you say, it was always being touted as a care home. I wonder on whose behalf that was.
It was a private industry. It was a private company.
Right.
And they were going to build this and, rent it out or accommodation for people going privately, in a sense. And it was going to have all singing and dancing and whatever. But no one of these pie in the sky.
What was the building called, Howard?
No, it wasn't Woodburn House. That's what the old Masonic building.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
No, I can't remember either.
No, the old grey mat is not working at the moment. But probably if Peter Kelly's listening to this, he'll come in and tell you exactly all about it. Because he was one of the ones that was certainly against it, the demolition, etc.
Well, I can't remember many people who were for it, to be quite honest, apart from the people who got a pecuniary interest in it. I mean, it was a gorgeous building.
It was. And disappeared forever now, but nothing's been in its place, and not even the likes of Keith Lord, when he did all the buildings down the Broadway, he put a facade up at it, and they were just like the old Victorian buildings, except they were modern. And if you look at it, you wouldn't see, apart from, there's no bank there now, the Alman Bank used to be, but the building itself, it does justice to the area.
Was it called Homefield?
Well, Homefield was there, yes. That was where the civil defence, etc., was all around there. Mm-hmm. They had like a big garage up that area in the grounds. It was at the back of the old bus station, bus garages.
Yes.
Where Salisbury Street care home is now. So, as I say, the promises that were given by this particular company, there's nothing seemed to have materialised, and maybe somebody out there can answer or give some suggestion of what's happening. But it seems a shame for that land and that house to be destroyed.
12 weeks today, Howard. Do you know what 12 weeks today is?
Go on.
Good Friday.
Good Friday? Oh, yes, April.
12 weeks today is Good Friday. When does the Camera Obscura open?
Oh, I don't know. It'll be round about... We'll be open for Easter anyway.
Oh, right.
There's scaffolding round at the moment because I know they were going to replace the roof covering because it's deteriorating. It's a canvas roof that's on that, on a wood structure underneath it.
Right.
But they've... Of course, the weather's not been good for that, but I was up that way the other day and I noticed the scaffolding round it. So it's possible that the material has arrived and there's somebody up there doing the job on it.
So we need Peter Kelly again, you see. That's two reasons we need Peter Kelly.
Yes, so if you're listening, Peter... 66 13 68.
All right. Thanks, Howard. Have a good weekend. Cheers now.
Bye now.
Good to hear from you. And Vivian's with us now. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, Andy. You were talking about care homes.
Yeah.
In the Independent last night, I was reading about Cummal Mooar, which is in Ramsey.
It's hanging on, isn't it? I mean, it's taking a while.
No, hang on. Let me tell you the story that's in the paper. They're not going to pull it down now and rebuild because they've got to do Ratcliffe Villas first.
Yeah.
Now, come on, Cummal Mooar is in quite a bad way. People are very happy there, but they've never decided where they're going. They were going to pull Coolnamary down, the sheltered housing that was, to build it there. But we've never heard another word about it. And I just think, will this government decide what they're doing and let us get on with things?
Well, again, Vivian, we're back to the situation where remember, we're the ones that pay for this.
I know that.
It's our money, so I can't understand why the big, veil of secrecy over it. What's going to happen? When's it going to happen? When's the new one going to be built? And as you say, what's going to happen to Cummal Mooar, which obviously people are very emotionally attached to.
Very, and they're very happy there as well. But it's a case of it was all I knew, because I'm on the Sheltered Housing Committee, was they were going to take over the Manx Care were taking over Coolnamary from us to pull it down and rebuild a property there to involve Cummal Mooar. But now you hear absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, we wait and watch and see, Vivian.
Yeah, but it was just you were talking about it, and I thought, well, while it's in the paper, but I just can't understand what's going on. And Ratcliffe Villas, by the way, was built with people's money, because I used to be on Solby Carnival Committee, and we gave them long thousands.
And that's the top and bottom of it, Vivian, is that we don't know. We don't know. There's no clear plan.
Well, that's government for you.
All right.
And I'll go with that. Thank you very much for listening, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thanks, Vivian. Have a good weekend. It's 28 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio. Here's a note from Tom in Dalby, who just said, how do we get the BBC weather people to start showing the weather in the Isle of Man properly? I don't know whether you've been looking at BBC and the weather, and this recent storm, whatever it's called, Dumbledore or something, if you look at it, there's a big hole around the Isle of Man, as though we haven't got bad weather. So there's an orange tint to Northern Ireland, to Ulster, and an orange tint to Scotland, and it's as though we're just magically out of the bad weather. But that's not the truth. Tom in Dalby says, I'm sick and tired of seeing the weather warnings for storms and snow and wind, which all the details, all the places on the map, expecting the bad weather, with a huge Pac-Man-sized bite cutting out the Isle of Man. It makes it look as though we're escaping the bad weather every time. So many friends on the adjacent isle take the mickey and say, you're lucky, the Isle of Man, you missed all the bad weather. Now, I seem to remember, this is Tom said, I seem to remember hearing something to do with the BBC using a service from a company called Meteo, which doesn't have any weather equipment on the Isle of Man. They do at Ronaldsway. Of course, we have our own government Met Office at Ronaldsway. So there's obviously something not working here. I get why the BBC weather maps don't give any detail for the Republic of Ireland, obviously, because, well, it's the Republic of Ireland, it's not the UK. And obviously we're not in the UK, but we pay the BBC about £5 million a year from the Isle of Man. The licence fee payers pay the BBC, and that includes a weather service which currently excludes the Isle of Man. And surely we deserve better. Thanks, Andy, says Tom in Dalby. And by the way, I love Manx Radio Gold. Thank you. We don't show the BBC weather as we have our own Met Office, says Phil. Yeah, but the point, Phil, is we pay the BBC out of our licence fees, and we don't have... So surely it's not beyond the wit of this company that supplies the BBC to put an interface in with Ronaldsway so that they can use Ronaldsway's data, because presumably, as their company doesn't have any sensors on the Isle of Man, any equipment, then we don't know. You can look as an Isle of Man viewer on the BBC and it looks as though we're fine today, which patently we're not. The lack of protection for any of our historic buildings is scandalous. We've lost so much of our built heritage, it's very sad. A lot of it would be protected elsewhere, but sadly not here. This is where you kneel down, face the east and say thank you to Mervyn Russell Stokes, the man who over one weekend saved the Gaiety Theatre. If we haven't said thank you to Mervyn Russell Stokes lately, Mervyn, thank you. The government's declared a major incident due to the number of trees down around the Isle of Man and the impact it's having across arterial and access routes. You're urged to stay at home and not to travel unless absolutely necessary. The Infrastructure Minister, Dr. Michelle Haywood, MHK.
Yeah, so it's the sheer volume of trees that have come down in a number of different locations around the island that have just reached the point where we have to strategically decide which routes we're going to keep open. So the major incident being declared allows us to kind of pull back from some of those areas where either it's too dangerous to work at the moment or we just don't have the resources to do it. We're focusing on arterial routes, and we'll be focusing on helping our colleagues at the MUA access areas that they need to get to, because we know we've got power out and we'll need to get those teams through to get that power restored.
In terms of people not going out, actually heeding the advice and staying in their homes, how important is that in terms of aiding the work that your teams are having to do?
Hugely important. I want to say a huge thank you to all of the members of the public who have heeded the warnings, who've stayed home, stayed off the roads. This is a bit different situation to Storm Darragh, because when that hit, it was across the weekend, and we know volumes of traffic on the roads are much lower. But actually people staying home and staying out of harm's way means that we can allow those teams to get on with clearing the roads and dealing with that. And of course we haven't had the risk then that we've got trees coming down onto vehicles, which is always my horror scenario, to be fair, in incidents like this. So really, really huge thanks to everyone for paying attention to the worry. Big thanks to the Met Office for analysing the data and getting the message to us so we could actually respond in a nice, timely way and give everyone prior notice. But yeah, well done to the Manx public for paying attention.
Now, in terms of just looking forward, finally, that obviously the red weather warning is currently due to end at 2 o'clock. The winds are going to die down to severe gale, which is still obviously incredibly windy. But in terms of the clear-up operation, this isn't going to suddenly, everything's going to be back to normal at 2 o'clock this afternoon or this evening, is it really?
No, people shouldn't take the end of the red alert as a kind of an all clear sounding, because it's not. You're right, the high winds carry on well into the evening, and we will see more trees that come down during that time as well. So it continues to be a challenging situation. And to be fair, if we hadn't declared a red weather alert, we'd still be having similar problems with just the force 9 wind that we're going to have this afternoon. So I'd ask people to continue to be vigilant if they do need to travel later on. But the clear up is going to take us. It's going to take us days, several days, I think. Storm Darragh was 7 weeks ago, and we're still dealing with the after effects for some of that. DEFA still have a huge challenge in plantations trying to deal with the after effects of that, and this storm will cause as much damage, if not more, so it will take us several days to get around it. I know people will be frustrated that their roads aren't being cleared quickly enough or that they have to drive around some diversion, but we are working as quickly as we can. Declaring the major incident allows us to call in contractors as well, and we will be doing our very best to get everything back to normal as soon as we can.
Michelle Haywood, MHK, the DOI Minister, talking about the situation that we have, a red alert. What's happening to the very in-depth survey, says H, about making payments for social care fairer. It took me a week to fully answer the questions, but it seems to be under the carpet again. I'm not sure who's responsible for it, but he's had past involvement, apparently. Residential homes charge more than local authority rent. Salisbury Street is for nursing care and costs more again, says G. I don't know which planet the councillors are on, because people come from all over the world to view the grandstand in all its glory. So why did they take all the flags down? Would it break the budget just to leave the flags proudly flying, says Frank. And another question, coincidentally, about the grandstand. What's happened to the TT scoreboard? What's the plan on the TT scoreboard? It was called Homefield, that site, and it was a former constabulary. Was it the former constabulary building? I didn't know that. I've given my opinion on homelessness, says Robert, and what's obvious is that they need to either buy or create a block of flats, probably on the Summerland site, and get in touch with professionals over at the Big Issue or the Shelter UK. There's more to it, but that's the size of it, says Robert, drinking his herbal tea. Everybody telling me that it was called Homefield, and I believe the Woodburn Road site's due to be developed next year by Excel, says 230. Regarding the demolition of public buildings, vacant sites left around Douglas, Who made all the money out of knocking down these fine structures? Says 223. And thank you, Jeffrey, who says it was called Homefield was the house. The cycling trophies were always paid to be cleaned by a private individual connected to cycling, says 598. There is legislation for care home fees, by the way. Summerhill Views is home to previous residents of Rietna Bay and its replacement, so the fees will be set by legislation, again, says 598. But it would be nice to know, wouldn't it? I mean, bearing in mind, take your mind back to the last general election and cast it forward to the next one. Everybody, I guarantee everybody's going to be talking about transparency in government. So just how far does that transparency go? Of course, we know that commercial confidentialities, and particularly before a contract is awarded, but really, when it comes to public money, I mean, it is our money, all the taxpayers' money, so shouldn't we know what's what? There used to be a lot more. Look back at the old Isle of Man Examiner yearbooks. There was a lot of information that nowadays you simply don't get. Have to agree about transparency, but on at least two occasions. Thank you for that. A message also said the same story of old managed decline when it comes to knocking down buildings and leaving brownfield sites to scar the area. Homefield, the bus station, Summerland, the Villiers, and that's only Douglas. Why demolish buildings and then cross our fingers to hope for some pie-in-the-sky development? How many times are we told there's going to be hotels, apartments, cinema, only to be left with a blot on the landscape? Well, the good news about what was adjacent to the old Villiers is that they do seem to be starting on there. Well, at least there are diggers in place, so we keep our fingers crossed. We don't show the BBC weather because we have our own Met Office, says Phil. Yeah, but why? Surely you can connect the BBC's weather provider and our weather provider and get the Isle of Man onto those. Just look today when they show them the UK sites or the UK map and everything. And I know we're not in the UK, never have been. However, we do shell out licence fees to the BBC. So, Mel says it's very windy in Serbian. It was Homefield, the ex-constabulary building. It was a lovely place to work. I worked there early 2006, next door to the children's centre where my preschoolers went. Happy days, says Mrs. C. The main house was the former DHA HQ on Woodburn Road, big garage and a conference centre and grounds for the civil defence. I've seen the weather forecast twice this morning, and they said the Isle of Man has its own red weather warning, says Lynn. Was that BBC or was it ITV? And the reason the national TV weather maps don't include the Isle of Man is because BBC and ITV use the UK Met Office system, which is different to Ronaldsway. We have to be different, don't we? I just get as frustrated with the lack of Isle of Man weather on national TV weather maps, but I'd like to get it changed. Well, thank you for that. Good to hear from you. And congratulations on your award. BBC did mention that they don't get details for the Isle of Man, whether it's because they don't use the Met Office, it's cheaper to use another company, maybe it's a contractual problem, maybe they're not allowed a forecast for the Isle of Man, says Phil. Hang on, we pay. We pay. Have you paid your licence fee lately? We pay for it. Hang on.
Back pain, neck pain, headaches, joint pain. At Align for Life Spine and Posture Clinic, we've been helping Manx residents for 15 years with our holistic, evidence-based care and therapies. Plus, we're now open Saturdays to make it even easier to see us. Visit our brand new website at alignforlife.com or find us on Facebook for opening hours and more information. Align for Life, 15 years serving the community of the Isle of Man.
At the first store, the bowls were too small. No good for my porridge, Goldilocks thought. At the second store, the chairs were too hard and uncomfortable. But at the third store, the beds were so comfy. That's because she was in Millie Chaps of Ramsey, where everything is just perfect. Right now, find bargains across every department at the Millie Chaps winter sale, including carpets, flooring, sofas and dining. Plus amazing stressless bedroom furniture and accessories. Don't miss the Millie Chaps winter sale. Good choice, Goldilocks.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
Get your garden ready for spring with Riley's. Seed potatoes to garden machinery. Get down to Cool Road, Braddon for everything you need. And all your pet supplies and birdseed too. Leap into spring with Riley's Garden Centre.
It's been a topsy-turvy start to the year for FC Isle of Man, but can they end January on a positive note in the NWCFL Premier Division this weekend? AFC Liverpool are the latest visitors to the Bowl, with the Ravens looking to avenge a last-gasp defeat to the Merseysiders earlier in the season. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus AFC Liverpool, kicking off at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
18 minutes before 1. Here's Stephen with us now. Hello, Stephen.
Good afternoon, Andy, and good afternoon, listeners. If I could just talk today about the withdrawal of my card and the strange decision of many MHKs who live in rural areas where access to cash is becoming diminished. Now, they always say there's nothing new under the sun, and in this case, gov.uk have looked at this problem and have provided a service whereby people who cannot open a bank account through whatever reason can get a payment, and it's called the Payment Exception Service. And the Payment Exception Service allows you to collect benefit or pension payments without a bank account. This service is only available if you cannot open a bank account. How to get your money? You'll be sent one of the following: a payment card, an email with a voucher code, a text message with a voucher code, and you can collect your payments during the opening hours of any PayPoint outlet. I don't know, do we have PayPoint outlets on the island? Any post office. So I would hope that the Isle of Man Government Treasury will introduce something like this, the Payment Exception Service. But it makes one wonder why on earth a lot of HKs, including incidentally the chair of Post Office, didn't ensure they were in the chamber to vote against this proposal, which I would have thought is another nail in the coffin of postal services as we know them. Also, when you tie in the reduction in banking outlets around the island, and the Financial Supervision Commission UK has made provision in law where an area, we look at it and they make sure there's hubs in that area, and we don't seem to be having this service. I think the Minister of Treasury did make mention of this in the debate, that we don't have that in law here so far. And it makes one wonder, it's another diminished service for the island residents.
And you just wonder, I mean, I remember at the time the politicians talking about getting rid of my card, and they almost intimated that my card was a bit old-fashioned, and I don't know what they think they're doing by being terribly modern, but lots of people wanted my card, and their views have just been kind of ridden roughshod over.
Well, it's the old story. The tin-walled bubble knows best for everybody, and it almost appears that they stop listening to the public when they are ensconced for a period of time. Thank goodness we're coming up to a general election again, and those people who haven't voted accordingly or voted to ignore the wishes of the people, possibly the people will ignore their manifestos when they come through the doors, because you can't really believe a lot of what they say. Now, it might well have been in some of their manifestos they were wanting to get rid of my card and the ability to get cash. But it's not just the my card, it's the ability of the post offices to act as possibly hubs. that is being lost here, and there's very little talk about what provision we're going to get for those people who possibly can't get a bank account or want to get their money in cash. And I just feel that I just can't understand why the chair of the post office didn't ensure he was in the chamber to vote against this measure.
But Stephen, this
incredible.
This borders on, and in fact, I'm not sure that it isn't pure discrimination. I mean, there are people. I mean, what's wrong with wanting cash, and what's wrong? I mean, the fact is that my card did cost money. They went into the cost of it, but in government terms, Stephen, it's a few bob.
Oh, absolutely, Andy. And listeners, it's just a few bob in the grit. Now, they will argue every little helps, but every little helps doesn't appear to be happening in other areas where there's big savings of money to be had if we have to save money. It's you look around the island, even if you go down and look at the Tynwald office, the railing outside are all a disgrace, the wedding cake, there's paint peeling off the windows and doors. Maintenance seems to have been forgotten about, but we look at areas where we can make it that little bit worse for the public, pensioners, and those that want to have cash. It seems like there's no thought to how we can make life better.
Well, what would your message be then to those politicians who were responsible for it, who thought it was a good idea?
Well, my message would be, if you're going to introduce something similar to the UK called the Payment Exception Service, which will cost money to administer and to create and set up, why not just leave the My Card in place for those people who want to get cash? It will in all likelihood, it might well find that it would decline naturally, and eventually most people may go over to a bank system. But for those who can't get a bank or don't want it, don't force them. Let them be able to get cash, and surely to goodness we will need some form of banking hub or a place to get cash.
Yeah. Post
offices are still very well placed around the island to be able to be used, and let's use them rather than another thing that eventually we'll be told, oh, all the post offices, there's nobody using them, so we're going to close it. It's another way of diminishing the facilities on the island.
And of course it will be too late. If they go, it'll be too late then to moan about it and to complain, because we've seen so many sub-post offices go.
Absolutely. I don't really like to use the word moan, because you'll probably find that most people have got a legitimate argument over why something should not happen. And the very people who we entrust to look after us don't seem to look after us.
Okay, all right. Have a good weekend, Stephen. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you. Let's get to Maria, who's with us. Hi, Maria.
Oh, hello, Andy. I hope you're keeping better now. If you were ill anyway.
It was that flipping chest infection.
Oh, yes. Well, hopefully you're over it by now. Going on about this weather carry-on, I listen to BBC Global News, and it's on channel 231, and they show, after most news programmes, they give you the forecast. They show you the satellite picture of the weather and how it's moving all through the day. Yeah. They have a time on the screen, so you can work. And the Isle of Man is there. You've got Ireland, all the UK, and obviously the Isle of Man in the middle of it all. And you can work out the time, and you can see when the rain's going to hit, when it's going to be fine, because you can see it on the satellite picture, and you can see the time, and it's pretty accurate.
Okay, and this is what channel?
231 on Freeview.
231 on Freeview. Okay.
I watch the 7 o'clock news, but they have them the 7:30. If you get the guide, you can see when the global news is on. The other thing is Channel 4 at the end of their 7 o'clock news. They have just pictures, and the guy 9 times out of 10 mentions the Isle of Man.
Oh, wow. Okay, all right. Well, we'll note that. Thanks, Maria. Have a good weekend.
You're very welcome. And you. Bye-bye.
Take care now. And Julian's on with us now today on Mannin Line. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Good wind out there. How's it going up at Douglas Head?
It's very breezy, but then again, it normally is breezy up here.
Yeah, well, we have to get the chainsaws out quick and get those trees cut. And
well, we were just pondering this. Is it finders keepers with wood that comes down, or I mean, whose responsibility is it, and who does it belong to? Can you get the chainsaw out?
Well, who knows? I mean, but I'm a big advocate of wood burners. Absolutely love them. So I would say go for it. Dry it out first and pick the right kind of wood, because some of them they can gum up your flue, can't they, if you're not careful?
Well, apparently it's all down to kiln drying, isn't it, Julian?
That's right, yeah. And the guys that supply it over here, they're very good and professional. So they've always got different kinds of wood. Bit of the oak for the slow burn and nice bit of birch to get it going and all that kind of thing.
And before anybody says we're advocating nicking wood, we're not.
No, we're not. No, would never consider that. Just a slight side effect of this, though, I notice on about 4 different renewables websites in the Stranraer region where this area is sort of starting to get in, the Freesdale wind farm, the Coor wind farm, the Glenapp wind farm, the Arcleoch wind farm and the Arcruach wind farm are now showing 0 megawatts of output.
Well, don't they feather them? They feather the blades, really, when it's really high wind, because the gears can't cope with it.
That's right, yeah. They call it that you've got your cut-in and your cut-out speeds and things like that. So I think it's usually around 56 miles an hour. So, so no production. So that's a transition in the future. There'll be, if you're stuck at home, there'll be possibly no heating and no cups of tea.
Well, I mean, the whole point, you would have thought, bearing in mind that wind turbines have been around big ones have been around for years, 70, 80 odd years, big wind mills and then wind turbines. You would have thought they'd have learnt to cope with very high winds and surely make the most of them, but it seems they haven't.
Well, this is the thing, and the latest data is that the bigger they're getting, the less reliable they're becoming, because, of course, you've got massive forces. You imagine you've got a blade that's like 9 bus lengths long pulling against a gearbox. It's starting to get difficult to manage them, and you look at some of them, they're 2 football fields long, these blades. So imagine the bend on them and the leverage that they're applying on ball bearings and gears and stuff. It's as you say, 56 mile an hour. They have to cut out, and then they cut in again lower down when it eases off again. This transition thing. This is a question I've got for somebody that might know this. What are we going to transition to if it's not gas or oil? What is that? We're going to transition to something, but when we get like a Dunkelflaute with no wind and no solar and all the rest of it. Yeah. By the way, with the solar, I noticed that the World Bank has just produced a list of 230 countries. The worst, with the least solar potential for PV, was Ireland, followed by England, followed by Norway, followed by us. Even we were listed as number 227 out of 230.
I saw that. It's all to do with the kind of how high what is it, longitude or latitude? It's one of those that we're the wrong side of.
That's right. And also, of course, we're out on the west side of Europe, where we get, we got obviously the Atlantic meeting sometimes, and we get lots of cloud, and that doesn't really help. And if we get plenty of snow, that doesn't really help with solar panels either.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julian. Have a good weekend.
You too, Andy. Cheers.
All the best. Previous governments, and in particular planners, allowed offices to be built on industrial estates without considering the implications of a lack of footfall in the town centres, especially at lunchtime. The lack of forward planning has left brownfield sites undeveloped for years, particularly in Ramsey and in Douglas, says unsigned, I'm sorry about that. If the trees were regularly limbed on the main arterial routes on the Isle of Man, it would help when future stormy weather hits, says Tim. Oh, by the way, congratulations to Manx Independent Carriers. Have you seen this? Manx Independent Carriers has been bought by Trade Distribution. You know, that A to B thing with the big arrow. Trade Distribution Limited, of course, is wholly owned by Heron and Brearley, by the brewery. So the brewery has bought Manx Independent Carriers, the largest logistics and freight forwarding business on the Isle of Man. Manx Independent Carriers started in 1985, and it's been confirmed. It was confirmed yesterday. It was bought by Trade Distribution Limited. Chairman and co-founder Big John Quay says, as we start our 40th year, the time felt right to start the next chapter. So well done. Apparently, for the immediate future, it's going to be business as usual for Manx Independent Carriers, bought by the brewery. To our Scottish contingent, to our Caledonian contingent, let me say, enjoy Burns Night tomorrow. Hope it doesn't blow the kilts around. And next Tuesday, I think, is Chinese New Year, the year of the wood snake. Do take care, in all seriousness, and stay safe. Have a fantastic weekend. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones. Back on Monday.
WINT